We're going to start with our top story tonight, which is this social media boycott which is happening this weekend, and that's now been given the backing by UEFA. European football's governing body are going to join a number of sporting bodies and organisations by staying silent across all social media platforms. It all starts tomorrow at 3 p.m. and it continues until Monday night. Now, our reporter Geraint Hughes joins us once again on set to just bring us up to date. And actually, Geraint, from when we spoke last hour, you went away and I've seen more emails and more groups have joined this social media boycott, which is good to see. It's gathering momentum all the time. Tell us, where are we?
So you're the one that reads my emails. It's very good to know that you're reading them. Yeah, gathering momentum. It really has this afternoon. Let's start with, I suppose, a corporate company side of things with the social media boycott before I come on to other companies. Sky Sports announced earlier today that it will be supporting the boycott of social media platforms this weekend, obviously in response to football's governing bodies, FA, Premier League, EFL, WSL, etc., last Saturday when they announced the plans. Just to make it clear to everybody, if you don't know already, 3 p.m. tomorrow until 1 minute to midnight on Monday night, so 11:59 p.m. So pretty much the best part of 4 days, 3.5 days of the boycott. But you mentioned there as well in the headlines, UEFA. Alexander Seferin, the president of UEFA, unequivocal backing to the initiative, saying that action needs to be done to stop the spread of hate and abuse. UEFA, of course, have been criticised over the years and recently about their stance on racism and online abuse, but they're getting behind this campaign as well. In response to that, I mentioned a number of companies, because it is not just sort of sports organisations and administrations, etc., but companies who associate themselves with sports. Nationwide early today, they sponsor England and the Respect campaign. They said they'll be joining the boycott. I contacted several of the Premier League sponsors, global brands that our viewers be well aware of, the likes of Barclays, Nike, Budweiser. In the last half an hour, EA Sports have confirmed they'll be joining the social media boycott in various ways, but essentially coming off a number of their social media channels during that period, that 3.5 day period as well. So it really has gathered momentum now throughout the day on that side of things, Pete.
Yeah, it certainly has. And a lot of key figures have been talking about this as well. It's moved well beyond football now, hasn't it? It's sort of transcended football. It's just an issue that transcends sport, doesn't it? And one of the sort of key figures in this fight against racial injustice, who's been very vocal throughout, Lewis Hamilton, he's been speaking as well. Yeah,
Lewis Hamilton has as well. And you know, he's representing himself quite clearly, because he has become, not Formula One, he's become one of the most powerful voices in sport. He transcends Formula One, he's transcended sport with the powerful messaging, not just about online abuse, racist abuse online, but obviously as well, discrimination, lack of diversity and inclusion within society as well. Very powerful messaging. In essence, if you go back to the tragic killing of George Floyd last year. But just before we hear from Lewis as well, we've spoken about companies. What about other sports as well? Because we've had football the football family in this country coming together, Premier League, FA, EFL and the WSL, but so many other sports now want to be aligned with this and are supporting the boycott. English cricket, England and Wales Cricket Board yesterday, England Rugby this morning. The Red Roses are playing this weekend as well, but they're coming off their social media channels as well. What have we had? British Racing. That's why I was just looking at my phone just there now. British Racing are announcing that they're coming off their platforms as well. A big weekend of racing this weekend as well. So a powerful message from them to join. British Cycling as well. Rugby League, which incorporates as well the Rugby League World Cup. So they're coming off their platforms as well. Coming back to Lewis Hamilton as well. He's become a very powerful voice with this as well. He's confirmed he will definitely be coming off his social media channels. As far as he's concerned, though, not 100% sure yet how Formula One is going to do it. But let's be clear, from Lewis Hamilton's point of view, well, he'll tell us now he's coming off and joining in this boycott.
100%, and I think I'm going to be supporting it this weekend also. There's no reason not to. We've obviously, you're seeing what's happening around the world. You're seeing a lot of the talk that happened last year, but this is a year of action, and the social media platforms haven't done enough. at the end. They have the capability of implementing change and making sure that there's no ground for that. What's really been interesting is seeing what happened with the Super League just recently. You see all those people come together and rally against it. Imagine all those fans did the same thing against racism. Just imagine the change that we'll be able to do. It's amazing what we can do when we're united. And so I'm really proud to see that there are multiple organisations that are supporting it this weekend, and I hope that it sparks change, and so I'm going to support it. I'm not sure why Formula 1 aren't, but I will.
Just listen to what he said there. I think, clearly he said, I'm pleased by, sort of the way that people come together. He used an example of there, the Super League story, which began, 10, 11, 12 days ago, how people came together, using that as, look what happens when people come together. Hoping that can now, be something that can happen now with this boycott, with this messaging as well. Listen, as we head towards sort of the weekend now, and a lot of football over the weekend as well, Premier League managers are preparing their players. They should be talking about tactics and etc. and all those kind of things. But really, really interesting to hear from Sam Allardyce. He's one of the older managers in the Premier League, but how he made it clear today about how, not just talking about football, he's spoken to his players, not just a passing, fleeting chat with his players, spoken to his players about this boycott now and how they can become involved, what they need to do, how they need to take charge of their accounts, etc., etc. Really interesting to hear from what Sam Allardyce has got to say now about how he's spoken to his players now about this boycott over the weekend.
Well, told all our staff and all our players to join it. I think they're happy to join it based on the amount of particularly racial abuse some of our players have had. So we're right up for it. Obviously, I've just had to tell the lads, just make sure you remember that it starts at 3 o'clock. And for those lads who have media companies looking at those social media, please try and contact them ASAP today so they don't forget. So I hope this is the start of something bigger. I hope that many other sports are joining in, I think. And I hope many more people across the country will start joining on a regular basis. It will not make a difference just doing it once and just doing it for a few days. It will only make a difference if this is the start of something that's going to grow and get bigger and bigger. And that needs to be planned out carefully. So hopefully this is the start. As many people will join in as possible. I encourage anybody and everybody at this moment to join in with us, particularly if they're a football fan, whichever club they support. And let's try and make a difference, because this really has to stop, and we have to try and force the social media companies, the government, to make a difference, to stop all sorts of abuse that is going on social media.
So it's actually really interesting as well hearing, like Sam Allardyce, Lewis Hamilton there as well. The boycott now, just to make clear again, 3 p.m. tomorrow through till just a minute before midnight on Monday night as well. But just over an hour ago now, the PFA, the Professional Footballers Association, they published guidelines for their members. So that is the players, published guidelines for their players now about social media and how to notice and report online abuse, etc., etc. Be very interesting to see how many of them maybe go a little bit beyond 1 minute past midnight on Monday about this. But guidelines for the PFA and their members, i.e. the players, have been published in the last hour now about how new advice and guidelines for how they manage social media going forward.
Right, Geraint, many thanks for bringing us up to date.